Hello YouTube, my name is Nero, and today we have some more Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. Today is the big day. The worldwide reveal is now out. We know a lot about Call of Duty World War II. We have a trailer, we have some information, we got some teasers, and this video is going to be covering the Call of Duty World War II multiplayer and what we know so far about it. First things first, the Call of Duty World War II multiplayer will be playable at this year's E3, therefore a ton of information is going to be given out there, and of course some of the stuff that right now we know a little bit about, but not everything we want to know about it. A lot of that stuff's going to get cleared up at this year's E3, which is going to be held on June 13th through June 15th in Los Angeles, California at the Los Angeles Convention Center. During the live stream today, Michael Condrey and Glenn Schofield did give us some information regarding the game's multiplayer. The first emphasis was, of course, on the boots on the ground combat, which they are just really, that is a buzzword right now. They are just hammering that home, boots on the ground. They are trying to make it perfectly clear to everybody that this game is going to be nothing like the previous 3 Call of Duty games. So they brought that up, of course. They talked about that a bit, but in terms of new features, they brought up this game mode called War, which according to them, and I quote, is an asymmetrical allied versus Axis mode where factions fight to capture or defend critical objectives. This mode changes map design, strategy, teamwork, and we're really excited about its potential. That, of course, came directly from Michael Condrey during the reveal live stream today, and this mode sounds interesting, right? They didn't elaborate any further, which is, I told you guys in last night's video, this is what they were going to do. They're going to give us some information, but not nearly everything that we want to hear. So he gave us a description, an outline of the game mode, and right now we're kind of left to speculate as to what it's going to be. Now, the way he described it, I initially thought of Operations in Battlefield 1. If you guys don't know, Operations in Battlefield 1 is like this big asymmetrical game mode where one team is one faction, the other team is the other faction, one team's attacking, one team's defending, and they basically try to defend or attack these various objectives throughout the map, right? It's kind of an interesting concept. It's one of my favorite parts, actually, of Battlefield 1, besides the big free death blimps that come in on occasion. But for the most part, it's actually pretty fun. So when I first heard about this, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Does this sound like Operations but in Call of Duty? And then if you go to pre-order World War II on the Xbox One, you can actually see that the online multiplayer is going to support between 2 and 48 players. So it's like, are we about to have a 24 on 24 asymmetrical, authentic Call of Duty World War II game mode? Because that sounds awesome. If you guys don't know, asymmetric games, the definition kind of changes around, and I guess the definition kind of changes based on who you actually talk to, but asymmetric typically means in video games where 2 teams are facing each other, but they don't have access to the same things. A good example of an asymmetric game would be like Left 4 Dead, when you're actually playing the versus mode online. So you have your normal people with guns, the survivors, and then you have the zombies, essentially, the different kinds, the smokers and the, I forget the names of all the zombies, but that's a good example of an asymmetric game mode, right? And so if they were to implement this, this would definitely be a pretty big leap forward for the Call of Duty series, and I feel as though it could be Operations, because again, 2 to 48 players is going to be the limit online, although that 48 may have something to do with another multiplayer feature, which we'll be covering later on here in this video. Yeah, so you have 2 to 48 players. He specifically said that it is going to change up the maps, right? It's going to change map design. He specifically says it's asymmetric, allied versus Axis. Like, it all just kind of comes together here with the idea of Operations. Another idea that's being thrown around right now is they're going to bring back War from Call of Duty 3/World at War, but expand upon it a lot. Make it more historically accurate, make it so it is allies versus Axis, therefore you only have access to certain weaponry depending on which faction you're playing on, and they're actually going to change up the maps based on that particular game mode. Like, for example, Black Ops 2 is known for having some smaller maps. Maybe the map size by default in COD World War II is going to be about the size of your average Black Ops 2 map, but when you're playing this particular game mode, when you're playing War, maybe the maps expand a little bit and you have access to more areas. Who knows what they mean by this? It's all pure speculation, but there is so much to talk about when it comes to this game mode, and I honestly hope that it is the big 24v24 mode, because I always wondered, what would Battlefield be like if it had the same fluidity and the same movement that we see in Call of Duty? Now, admittedly, Battlefield's gotten better and better. I think if you go back to, like, like Battlefield 3, especially on the console. It feels very clunky, 30 FPS. It doesn't feel like Call of Duty. It's not as smooth as Call of Duty. I always wondered, well, man, this game would be amazing if it was as smooth as COD. Well, what if Call of Duty had a 24v24 game mode? That sounds freaking interesting to me, and I cannot wait to learn more. Although it seems more likely that it's going to be just a revamped war mode where it's not going to be 24v24, but we're going to have to see, and I would love to hear what you guys think down there in the comment section below. Next up, they announced the brand new Divisions feature. This is going to be a community feature that allows players to enlist in a specific unit of their choice. This sounds a bit like factions in Infinite Warfare, if you ask me, where you sign up for a faction, and while playing with that faction, you unlock faction-specific things like camos, customization, patches, and so on. It sounds a bit like that, and if we go check out the official Call of Duty Twitter, they elaborate a little bit further, saying that Divisions bring a new approach to create a class and character customization as you enlist in a division and progress through the ranks. Divisions also seem to go hand in hand with this brand new social feature, which is going to be called Headquarters. You guys heard me talk about earlier, we're going to have 48 people playable online, like all together in one area. Well, this is where Headquarters comes into play, because it's going to be a living space where fans can hang out, compete, be rewarded, whatever that means, show off, and have fun outside of matches. Now, before I show you guys this, because we do have footage of this, this is what we saw in Advanced Warfare. Remember this in Advanced Warfare? This was Sledgehammer's last game, and we all thought this was so cool. We could see everybody in the lobby and see how they're decked out, what they've done to their character, and so on. Now let's take a look at the Headquarters feature in Call of Duty World War II. How freaking amazing is that? So that is one of the coolest looking features I've seen for a Call of Duty game in a very long time. Now, other games have done this, but Call of Duty has never done it, and I'm excited to see what these things are actually going to be like. It appears they're going to have up to 48 people at a time in these Headquarters things, and I think the reason why is they could have more people, but I mean, how many is too much before you're just completely cluttered within this area? I think they're going to be instancing different areas and stuff like that, where they're going to prioritize you being there with your friends, or maybe with people from your surrounding area, who knows? But it appears you join a division, that division is going to have a different headquarters than the other divisions, and you can hang out in here in between games, or presumably just at the main menu, and who knows what you can do here. They say you can compete, they say you can hang out and be rewarded, they say that you can show off to your friends and stuff like that, so maybe you can pull out your weapons while you're here, maybe there's a shooting range somewhere in these headquarters, who knows? But these things look freaking cool. 48 people, all of the same division, assumably, all there together, and I have so many questions, man. The divisions, like, can you go division to division? Can you swap between them? Is it a decision that you have to make at the very beginning of the game and you have to stick with that decision forever? Like, I have no idea what they plan on doing with this. I imagine it's going to be similar to what we see in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, but expanded upon a little bit. Either way, though, guys, sounds freaking awesome. And this is a bit of a story, but this is something that is just so endearing to me, because I remember talking about a feature similar to this so long ago. So longtime fans of my channel will remember the story of me getting my first gaming headset. It was a Turtle Beach X1, and we had to drive to a Best Buy that was like an hour away, because there's like literally nothing ever near me. And so we had to drive this Best Buy. We got our Turtle Beach X1s, and as we're driving home, my cousin and I, the same cousin that introduced me to Call of Duty in the first place way back in the day, we were just talking about Call of Duty World at War, because that was the game that was out at the time. For some reason, we were big fans of playing as the Russians in Call of Duty World at War. We loved the Russians, we loved Reznov, we loved using the Russian weapons. I think it has something to do with the movie Enemy at the Gate. We love that movie, right? So we loved using the Mosin Nagant, the SVT-40, the Tokarev secondary, the PPSH, of course. We loved using all of the Russian weapons in the game. And so I had this idea, like, how cool would it have been if, while playing Call of Duty World at War, you sign up for a faction? You have Germany, you have the Japanese, you have the Russians, and you have the Marine Raiders, right? So you have all these different factions. How cool would it be if you could sign up for a faction, only play as that faction, only use weapons for that faction, and have the factions kind of compete? Like, this faction has the highest kill-death ratio, this faction has a higher win percentage, this faction does this faction does that, like something involving the factions, like being part of a team, something greater than yourself. And obviously that was never really implemented, but I thought it was a neat idea even back then. Like, I remember this so vividly, I can picture the scenery as I'm describing this idea to my cousin as we're driving home one day. And so to see something like this actually being implemented, it sounds freaking cool. Now, of course, we're probably just going to be all American. I mean, pretty much everything in this game is going to be from the perspective of an American soldier, to my understanding. So I think we're going to be in different divisions in the United States Marines, as well as maybe the Army, Navy, Air Force. Who knows what is actually going to be in there? But there are going to be different divisions. You can sign up for them. They're going to be headquarters, and it sounds freaking incredible. Aside from that, we did not get too much information regarding the Call of Duty World War II multiplayer. They did bring up the private beta, which we already knew about, but there is going to be a private beta for pre-ordering this game. Who knows if they're going to have an open beta? Remember back in Black Ops 3, initially the beta was private, but eventually they made it open for like the final bit of the beta itself. So who knows if it's ever actually going to be opened or if it's going to remain private. But regardless, there's going to be a beta for this game, so we are going to be able to play it before it actually releases, which sounds freaking awesome. They did discuss some of the weaponry in the game. Specifically, they mentioned the M1 Grand, the STG-44, the MG-42, the M1903 Springfield, and they also specifically mentioned the Springfield is going to be scoped as well as iron-sighted, so this kind of brings back the idea of unscoped sniper rifles that are going to be featured here in this game. They showed off the grease gun submachine gun, and they even, if you pay attention to the trailer, show other weapons like the Browning, the Walther, the 1911, the flamethrower. We even see a couple of instances of bayonets in the trailer, so I assume all that stuff is going to make its way into the multiplayer in one way or another. All in all, ladies and gentlemen, the Call of Duty World War II multiplayer sounds and looks freaking awesome based on what we know so far, and I cannot wait to learn more about it. But here's the thing, since we know so little about it, everything that we picture in our heads is going to be perfect, right? We don't know what the actual maps are going to be like. We don't know what the progression system is going to be like, what the kill streaks are going to be like, what the weaponry as a whole is going to be like. We don't know, right? We don't know, but we're going to be learning over the weeks and months, probably leading up until E3, where we learn a lot about the game. Then, of course, we're going to get some other trailers regarding the co-op mode, other trailers regarding the actual multiplayer itself. Then, of course, the actual beta is going to be coming. So, all in good time, ladies and gentlemen. But so far, the game looks freaking awesome, and I'm so happy to see the Call of Duty community all kind of backing a game again, because last year the community was so divided and so split, like so much negative feedback and criticism being pointed in Infinity Ward's direction regarding Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. This year, everybody seems excited, with a few people that are kind of disappointed that the co-op mode is going to be zombies as compared to like a Spec Ops game mode. But aside from that, it seems to be all positive feedback, which almost has me worried in a way. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section below, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.